I got a video that I want to show y'all, and this video is gonna be about the how white so-called white people can do more because they have all of the resources. I grew up and I came from a place born and raised into poverty where where I couldn't read, write, things of that nature. I had to be put in separate classrooms and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? Even as I'm speaking now, it's difficult for me. Well, like what I mean by that is that I'm not ashamed to actually tell the background where I come from, and you all gonna get a chance to kind of see that. I'm gonna do some reading, but it's gonna be actually to wake the people up. So I'm gonna hurry up and get off into it right now. All right, the reading is called Orthodox Christianity versus Apostolic Christianity. But how did the Trinity develop within the mainstream Christianity? Why were so many followers receptive to the very same schools of philosophy, that means man-made teachings, that the so-called white man, and that they had been rejected by the faithful first century Christians? Okay, after the original apostles died, contradictions in teachings and meaning, false doctrines began to appear as masses, and church history became lost. The the famous historian Edwards Gibbon, in the declining of the fall of the Roman Empire, candidly acknowledges the scanty and suspicious materials of ecclesiastical history and sold them, enabling us to dispel in the dark cloud that hangs over the first age of the churches. Okay? Now, so far, it's pretty good. Like I went across the words called the mainstream and all that type of stuff. And this and that and the third talked about the first century church. After the first century, then false teachings started to come into the church, such as people believing in the Trinity. Let's go and let's see what happened. Here we go again. For nearly a century after the book, hold on, excuse me a minute. The book of Acts, about AD 70 to 170, we find church history to be virtually blank, and the story of the Christian church. Jesse Lehman Harbit calls this time the age of shadow. I hope I said that right. He writes of all the periods in the church, churches, his story, history is in the one about which we know the best. For 50 years after St. Paul's life, it's a half of a century, is a century. For a curtain hangs over the church through which we strive vainly to look, and when at last it rises about 120 AD with the writings of the earliest, hold on, let me pull it up some. In the earliest church fathers, we find a church in many aspects very different from that in the days of St. Peter and St. Paul. The New Testament offers many many versions proven in apostasy was occurring and pulling believers from the truth. Notice the many warnings about false apostles and a false movement that already existed in the first century and was threatening the church. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7, for the mystery of iniquity does already work. 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 13 to 15, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. 1 John 4, verse 1, beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets are going out into the world. I'm going to go back and recorrect myself with the word. I think I said historian at first, but I think I said historian. No, I didn't say historian. Let's see what I said. The word is history. It is the one about which we know the last. For 50 years after St. Paul's life, a certain huge over the church, through which was starved vanity to look, and what at last it raises about 120 AD with the Pope, with the writings of the early church fathers. Okay. I finally got it right. The word was history, not historic. The word was history, not historic. So I had to correct myself on that because I did have a reading problem when I was coming up, but I still work on it every day and I still practice it. So I still got a lot of learning to do, people. But I have learned a good bit so far, but I'm still going. All right, this is the end of the video. I'm out.